That Metal Interview.
To all the death metal fanatics, you guys are in for a treat. We have with us in this episode of That Metal Interview, we have a very special guest by the name of John McEntee. Yes, you guys heard right. John McEntee, lead vocalist, or if you want to call him lead growler, or whatever you might want to call it, death metal voice, a death metal vocalist, frontman. And this guy is great, one of the best in the business, and one of the pioneers coming out of the New York area when Immolation was coming out, Mortician, amongst other death metal bands. So I'm talking about Incantation, lead vocalist, guitarist for Incantation, John McEntee, and their new album is called Sect of Vile Divinities. If you guys haven't picked this up, you guys should check it out. Sect of Vile Divinities, great album, top to bottom. I truly recommend it. You guys want some true death metal, no fake shit. This is real shit, true death metal. You got John McEntee on guitars and lead vocals. You have Kyle Severn on the drums, the beast on the drums, Kyle, of course. You got lyricist, bassist for the band Incantation, Chuck Sherwood on the bass, and Mr. Luke Shively on the other guitar, accompanying Mr. John McEntee from the band Incantation. And Mr. McEntee speaks to us about different subjects throughout his career. Before he was the vocalist of Incantation, he's always been the owner, of course, as he's talked to us about it. He's always been the leader and the person that came up with the name and the band and all this. So it's his vision as we talk about it. So let's keep it short now. Let's go and check out this interview with Mr. John McEntee of Incantation. Crank it up. Brand new album, Sect of Vile Divinities, 12 tracks, Relapse Records. Congrats on that, man. Great record.
Well, thank you very much. We're really happy with it. The vibe has been real good for it, so can't complain, you know?
What would you say is different from, what did you do different on this album than older previous records?
Well, I mean, there's definitely not issues, but there were definitely things with the last one that we weren't totally happy with. It's not that we're not happy with the album, but just any time we do an album, we always kind of look back and see what things worked and what didn't work. And on the Profane Nexus one, the last album before this,
yep.
We thought some of the drums and rhythm parts were just too sterile sounding, because some of the songs on Profane Nexus, I guess a reasonable amount of the songs on Profane Nexus, we tried tempo mapping some of the songs. So we thought it would be a good idea to try to make sure, like, every time we go to a certain verse or something, that it was the same tempo next time around, which when you play live as a band, and don't have like a click track or anything, you easily can go off tempo a little bit because you're just kind of going on the vibe. And we did that on Profane Nexus, and after looking back on it, that's one of the flaws that we seen in it. I mean, it was a tight album, and I really liked the songs. I think Profane Nexus was a great album, but we wanted to put that into a main priority on this new one, where we wanted to make sure that it had more of a real band vibe, kind of like a live vibe or something like that we were looking for. So the Sect of Vile Divinities album, we didn't use any sort of click track to any of the songs. Everything was very just live. I mean, basically just jammed through the songs a bunch of times and picked a version of the song that we liked after doing it, and then rolling with that just as is, instead of instead of trying to fix stuff up, because what I feel is on our earlier albums, when we used to have to record the tape, obviously you used to have to just record everything straight out and just know the parts and have the whole vibe of the band. And then once a lot of the digital recording stuff started happening, it's really easy to fix things up to click tracks, or just play to click tracks and stuff. And for us, it just doesn't work. For us, it's better for it to be more raw and earthy. It just gives more personality to the music, because in my opinion, what makes us kind of special as a band is that we do sound like ourselves, and we should let ourselves be heard that way on an album. It shouldn't be too much of it. I mean, it should be a great version of us, but it shouldn't be like all fixed up digitally, we'll say,
Yeah, it might sound a bit robotic, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, just sometimes it just, I guess it sounds robotic, not enough personality in the music, because there's a fine line between playing super tight to something in a natural way, and playing super tight to something in a mechanical way, and we didn't want that mechanical feeling on it. I mean, there's a lot of great bands and albums out there that are super tight, and everything is really like played to click tracks, and it sounds good. But for us, what makes us good is more of the jam vibe, because we're an older school band, and that's how we started doing it. I mean, when I was originally writing songs for Incant, I never thought of like what tempo, speed things were at. We just played the songs and said, okay, play a slow part here, fast part here, and just go on totally on a vibe, And I think that made the Sect of Vile Divinity album stand out more than definitely the last one. And also, personally, I wanted to add more simpler, evil vibe on some of the riffs, like we did on some of our earlier material. And also, I wanted to do a little more like double guitar parts on stuff, which is kind of a lot we did on our Diabolical Conquest album. So, between mixing some of the more older influences, influencing ourselves pretty much, we wanted, like I said, the drum thing was a big issue, because Kyle has a distinctive way of playing, and it sounds great, and there's no reason to try to I don't know, it doesn't need to. He's not one of those drummers that plays everything 100% to a click track properly, and having that freedom in the music actually helps us out express it properly, because just the way it goes. I know I'm kind of babbling on about the subject, but it's something that is really important to me, that we sound like ourselves,
Yeah, I'm a guitar player. I understand the tempo and the click. What could be difficult, I guess, is when there's tempo changes, or time signature changes, Musician talk, of course. That must be difficult changing the click track on there, or, depends on the
song. Well, it's a pain, it's a pain in the ass. Even though that we would adjust the click track to Kyle's real drum playing on the part, it still didn't sound 100% natural, because we thought that it would be better if we had the same tempo throughout, not throughout the whole song, but through that part each time in the song. And that's what we did on Profane Nexus. And looking back on it, it was not really a good idea, because sometimes that slight alteration in tempo from time to time works, because you're talking about, you're coming in from a different riff, so the vibe might be different going into that part. So it's way better to just, for us at least, to go on our own vibe and intuition, and just how we play it live or how we play it at practice, than trying to, make this super modern, tight as nails kind of production or whatever, I mean, people that like, a lot of our old school fans, they like those early albums because they were very, vibey and very loose in some ways, It was tight, but it wasn't like false tight. It was like tight as a band that practiced a lot, and we've had a lot of, I mean, really the last, Profane Nexus was the only one that we really did that on. And it's not that it's, it's a bad thing. It was an experiment. We tried it and we didn't like it, so we wanted to go back to the original way.
That's the only one. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of parts on some of the other albums in the last 15 years. There might have been a part here and there that we click-tracked out, something that, there was a time signature struggle on, but it would never be like from the beginning of the song to the end of the song. It would only be like this one part. We just, have to try to, make sure that the drums are on. But on the new one, we said, fuck it. We're not tuning out any of it. We're just going to go with the real vibe, and that's it,
Yeah, the old school feel. Oh, yeah. Sounds great.
And I mean, we're, that's our pocket.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Why shy away from it,
Well, I'm a fan of all Incantation recordings, albums, so to me, Profane, thinking as a fan, Profane is badass to me, so even the new one, of course.
Yeah, well, like I said, I like the album a lot.
Yeah.
It just, every album that we do is an answer to the last one before, because, I mean, you said you're a musician yourself, and, after you do something, and say if you do a demo or an album or whatever, and then you listen back to it, you realize, we could have fixed this, or this could be better, but, it's already done, so you just use those little notes that you make to yourself on the next album,
Yeah. As far as the lyrics go, I understand your bassist, Chuck, does most of the lyrics, huh?
Yeah, Chuck is the lyricist of the band now, which I'm so happy about, because I was really getting burnt out on writing lyrics. I love writing music, but lyrics, not really my thing,
Is he a bookworm, or what? Where'd you get these crazy ideas from? Right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's best for him to explain it himself, because whatnot. But in general, yeah, he's a bookworm. He loves doing research. He loves learning about historical stuff throughout the world, all different times and stuff like that. And he looks for these really far out there historical craziness. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
He just it's really cool. And also some of his lyrics are just simpler stuff, like dreams that he might have had or something that kind of stuck with him, or but most of it is actually like real myths or real stories that were told throughout time, which is actually
awesome.
Pretty cool, because most of the lyrics I was writing was a little more just more straight out anti-religious and blasphemous, and his are still anti-religious and blasphemous, but it's more in more, I don't know how to explain it, maybe more interesting way, or more not as like in your face way as I was doing, which I think is really cool.
I like both ways. I mean, yours is badass too.
Yeah. Both ways has their. I mean, there's nothing. It's to me, it's really fun to sometimes just be blatant.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to be more abstract and more say well thought out or something. Both are good, and I believe that Chuck feels the same way. Sometimes it's good to just to kind of be an asshole, and other times it's good to be more more intellectual about it.
As far as the riffs, I saw an interview where you guys do the democracy thing. Everybody pitches in different ideas and riffs and this and that.
Yes.
When you do your own riffs, do you think back of your older previous albums or songs, or do you just go for a fresh move?
It's both, really. I mean, some stuff you write, at least the stuff that I write, some of it is new ideas that we haven't really touched upon, and for me, it's kind of cool to conquer new ground as a songwriter and stuff. Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, there's also times when I'll think back to some of the older songs and look back at the structure and how I did things, and for me, it's also cool to try to use that as kind of kind of an influence on some newer stuff. Like, I wouldn't do the same exact thing, but I would say okay, that was cool. We did this cool double guitar part in a song. Like I said, a lot of songs on Diabolical had a really cool double guitar work. Yeah. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to incorporate a little more of that. Or you might listen to a certain album and just be like, oh, we haven't done a song with this kind of vibe and tempo for a while. Let's try to do one like that, but in a different way, not just repeat that song, because for us it's not fun to just copy what we did before, because like all bands, we want the album to come out and want those songs to be different than the other songs that we have in our catalog. We're not one of those bands that want to have every album sound like you listen to the same songs over and over again, and a big part of making that happen is having everybody involved in the band and write the material. It's great to have fresh new ideas from people. I mean, Chuck writes amazing stuff. Luke's been writing great stuff for the next album. Kyle, the same way. It's just great because if it was just me writing all the material, even if I try to be diverse or whatever, there's always going to be certain things in my writing that are always going to, kind of, certain progressions and stuff you just do. I'm used to doing or whatever. So it's nice to have other people in it. And also when I write something too, it's nice to have somebody else say, "Oh, that's really cool," but that kind of inspires me a little bit. I want to, maybe try adding this little piece to that, or just having a real fun kind of debate over the riffs and stuff is always really healthy. The problem with that could be is if you're not jamming with the proper people, that debate could be really misguided, because if all the people aren't looking for the same outcome at the end, you can't have that. So I'm really happy now with the lineup that we have, that we all know the kind of end game plan, and everybody really puts a lot of input and a lot of opinion on how things should be, and that's just going to make the songs better and better, because we're not the kind of band that somebody brings in a song and then, okay, that's the way it is and it's done. No, we jam it as a band. We play, we do it, like a band, like we used to do back in the day. We all get together and we play through the songs, and, while you might be playing through the songs, and then after you finish the song, you're like, oh shit, I got this really cool idea here, or somebody will bring something up, and, that's the amazing part of being in a band for me, is that connection with other musicians, and being able to just take something that one of us say came with a basic idea of, and once you all get it together, it turns into something really awesome. And it's just it's great to be a part of something like that.
So at what age did you learn how to play guitar? Who were your influences back then?
I got my first guitar when I was probably like 8 years old or something, but it was a crappy acoustic, and I wasn't interested because I didn't know nothing about guitars at 8 years old. So I was pretty pissed off when I tried playing it and it didn't sound like an electric guitar. So I didn't really touch it I didn't really touch that guitar ever, honestly. But I ended up buying a guitar, like electric guitar, from my paper route money back in, I must have been 13, 14, somewhere like that. I can't remember exact year, but it was probably 13 or 14. And I just started playing. I started taking some lessons. I heard about this kind of metal guitar teacher and stuff, and he taught me all kind of the basics of just a couple scales and basically like power chords and just the generic stuff. But I've taken lessons here and there. I took also lessons from this guy called Ed Furman, which he used to play in a New Jersey band called Hades, which was like an old kind of a metal thrash band, kind of really inspirational, actually. Back in the time for me. So I was really happy to get lessons from him. And I did take lessons too in college from it was supposed to be classical guitar, but it ended up being this old jazz musician guy. And it was really cool to work with him and kind of learn a little bit of that style, even though, I'm a metal guy. I'm not really into I respect jazz probably more than other styles of music, but I learned a lot about feeling and stuff from that. But as far as my influences go, besides my guitar teachers, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, at that time, it was a lot of like heavy metal guitar players. I mean, definitely Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath, probably like I would say Randy Rhoads and Jake E. Lee from Ozzy. Guys from Maiden, Judas Priest. All those kind of strong metal bands from the 80s and stuff. But at a certain point, I really started getting into more extreme stuff, and I really was influenced by like the first Possessed album. Mike Terrell and Larry Laurent really inspired me. Also, like Merciful Fate. Just those guitar players really early on that really probably got me into doing it. But there's been so many great guitar players. I mean, from like I said, metal guitar players, like heavy metal guitar players, rock guitar players, to death metal guitar players. I mean, a lot of those early players like Chuck Schuldiner, maybe not solo wise, but definitely music wise, it was an inspiration. And Necrovore bands like that. Necrophagia was a big influence on me. It just depends on, you kind of grow from like the beginner kind of guitar, the generic rock and metal guitar players as influence. And then at a certain point it gets to, more defined into the death metal realm that started being influences to me.
I understand you started singing with the band back in 04, 03, 04.
I think I started in 03, but our first live show was 04.
Why didn't you, this is a weird question, you didn't think you could sing back then when Incantation started?
Yeah, I just didn't have any will to want to sing.
Yeah.
I mean, probably my biggest influence as a guitar player was probably like Mike Terrell from Possessed. Mm-hmm. That's all I wanted to be, was a guitar player that wrote a lot of music. And, I wanted to be kind of like, I wanted a band that was going to play the kind of riffing and ideas musically that I was wanting to write. So it just wasn't a thought. And especially back then, I mean, I don't have, the deepest voice in general, so it's like I just didn't even think that it was possible. I guess I had a complex about it when I was younger or something. It's just never even crossed my mind. Yeah. And even when I decided to do vocals for the band in 2003, I still didn't have a lot of confidence that I could do it. I just thought that I had no choice, because I was really discouraged that so many great vocalists that we had, didn't last in the band for so long. Yeah. So I figured, well, if I do it, at least it'll stay the same. And it's like even if it sucks, it's like at least I could do it the way I want to do it, or try to do it the way I want to do it. Because it is, to be fair to the previous vocalists, it's like they would come into the band, and especially Kyle and myself, but both of us would really kind of like tell them this is how we want it done, Yeah. And they weren't really always able to express themselves maybe the way they wanted to, because we were kind of really guiding the ship in the band. So I can understand them not being happy with it, because they want to express themselves, which is totally reasonable. But it was stressful for us, because we had a certain way we wanted things done, and we just couldn't find anybody that really wanted to do it our way without giving us some kind of pushback or whatnot. So I figured if I do it, I could take the criticism. I could do my best to try to do it the way we want to, and if it doesn't work, then okay, we're screwed. But at least I tried my best. And then after first couple shows we did with what I did on vocals was in Mexico, a little Mexico tour. I think it was Mexico City, Monterrey, and I don't know, I can't remember, maybe it was Puebla. It was like 3 shows, and we filmed the shows with just a VHS camera, but I wanted to film them all just so I could hear how the vocals actually sounded in the front. Because it was kind of like maybe like a test run for me. And when I listened back to it, I was like, wow, it sounds pretty fucking good. I mean, it wasn't as good as, say, I am now. Now I have more experience. Yeah. Actually, at that time, it sounded more like a Morbid Divisions type Max Cavalera, which I wasn't bummed out about at all because he's one of the best,
Oh, yeah.
So I was just like, it definitely gave me a boost of confidence after hearing that, even though, I know Incantation really needs a little more low end in some of the vocal parts. At least I knew that, okay, whatever happens, it doesn't sound terrible, it sounds pretty damn good. And just over time, it took years to really develop it to the place where I'm at now, because, even for the next albums, because really the first album I did was Decimate Christendom and then Primordial Domination. And both those albums, when I did vocals, I had a lot of coaching from Kyle to help me through it, because I was so self-conscious about my vocals that I couldn't even tell if they were good or bad.
Yeah.
I just, I would do it and be like, because every time I would listen back to it, I'd always think it's not good enough. And it's like we couldn't get nothing finished because I was always saying it's not good enough. So I had to just say, screw it. Kyle knows if it's going to be good or not. So I just got to listen to him and kind of have him, say, produce my vocals, So it was a team effort. And I'm not happy with the way those albums came out. I think they're great. I mean, yeah, are they as good vocally as they are now? No, I could do better now. But for that time, I think it was great, and it was a good starting point. And without doing that stuff, I wouldn't be at the place I am now. I'm just fortunate that I have been getting progressively better. I mean, by the time 2010 came around, I really started to feel really comfortable with it. I was like, okay, this is really coming together properly. So yeah, it was a little, it's a long journey, but it was, what sometimes the way it goes, you don't expect to do things. I never expected to be the frontman and vocalist of the band, but it only makes sense because, the band's always been, even though I've had a lot of great members in the band, I came up with the concept a long time ago for this band, and my goal was always to find people that wanted to share my, vision and my goals with the style I wanted to do. So I didn't know back then, but it would have been smarter for me to do vocals the whole time because, I could have just expressed myself the way I felt the music should be expressed in my vision, instead of trying to find other people to work with, to do the thing that I should be doing on my own, really,
That's cool, man. That's a great story right there.
Thanks.
You're doing great, and you sound great now than as in 04, 03. It sounds great both ways. So.
I mean, trust me, I was really happy. I mean, really, I really started getting a lot of praise from my vocalists around Vanquish and Vengeance album, and I was super happy that it was really nice to get those kind of compliments, not so much ego wise, but just for helping give me that confidence to that, okay, people really accept it and like the passion and the tones that I'm putting into the vocals. It's really it's really great, and it's nice now because now I'm at the point where I'm comfortable with them. I get to listen to them, I can hear them, after I record them and be like, yeah, that's good, that's not good. I know it. I know my vocals well enough now where I can really, really feel comfortable on album, which is nice to be at that point,
Take us back to the early Incantation days. What was different back in 89, 90 as far as the local scene, gigs? Was it difficult getting recognized? Was there a lot of competition in your area?
Yeah, well, the thing, I mean, around 89, 90, things were starting to turn for the better, I guess, for extreme bands in the New York, New Jersey area. Like we had a lot of great thrash bands and a lot of great hardcore bands from the New York scene in the '80s. But there was a point, my former band I played before this, Revenant. We were like a death thrash, or we sometimes call it speed metal type band or something. But we struggled a lot to try to get great show opportunities. I mean, we would book a lot of them ourselves, or work with a few other bands that were really trying to get noticed in our area. But once I started Incantation, I was just very fortunate that the scene started opening up for bands like us, and pretty much right out of the gate, we started getting pretty cool show options and stuff like that. So it wasn't, to be honest, I mean, I paid my dues with Revenant a lot. By the time I got to do Incantation, it was very a lot easier, because I already had my foot in the door. People already knew the band, or knew about Incantation from my former band. I had like everything kind of set up for me. It was just up to me to be able to kind of grab the bull by the horns properly, and just make sure that when we did perform for people, that we really made a kick-ass impact or whatever. And it just it kind of worked out. It worked out perfectly, actually. Everything. I mean, basically everything up till Onward to Golgotha. In the band, I think worked out better than I could have even imagined and expected. It was like such a great time. But we did have a great little scene in 89, 90 with Suffocation was just coming out. Immolation was already out for a few years.
Yeah.
Mortician was around. There was other bands starting, like Morpheus Descends and Decomposed, and we had Apparition. Just a whole bunch of bands. And so was starting to become kind of a scene, and there were clubs that were willing to have us, and the shows were actually pretty good early on, because a lot of like the earache bands were starting to get released in the U.S., like say Morbid Angel's Altar of Madness, and Terrorizer. Also, some of the Roadrunner stuff like Obituary was out. So it's like there was a want for some extreme music. So we were pretty lucky that everything kind of worked out the way it did early on. It wasn't so bad,
Great time to live in. Great place and time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, it was an amazing time for extreme, death metal and stuff. It was incredible to see all these great bands at their, early prime. The fire that all these bands had was just, it was a great energy in the scene. Like, it just inspired everybody to work harder and go for it more, because there was just so much great band. Just go to a show and just get your ass kicked makes you want to go home and just kick more ass writing music.
Awesome. I saw an interview where you mentioned, all due respect, you mentioned you're a hermit. Is this true?
Yeah. I mean, in general, yes. Yeah. I mean, it's if I'm not hanging out with metal people, like my two things that I really enjoy is metal and, like, say horror type stuff or whatever. So if it's not hanging out with that kind of stuff, I'd rather just stay home and either work on music or hang out with my fiance now and stuff. Just I'm not the kind of person that needs to be social, especially if it's not like a metal situation. Yeah. But going to shows and stuff, it's like I feel at home there, so it's okay. So I would say it's fair to say, it's not fair to say that the reality of the situation is I am socially awkward to an extent. I mean, when it comes to metal and stuff like that, not really socially awkward, but when it comes to like everyday life with like normal people, I feel really uncomfortable in those situations. I've always just been kind of like the outsider kind of person. Just something I didn't realize when I was younger, but older I get, I start to realize, okay, this is just the way I am, and it's not like there's anything wrong with it. Just some people, are extremely social and can be social in any situation, and I'm the kind of person that can, you know?
Yeah, I understand that. I'm kind of the same way, so it's cool, you know. I guess metalheads.
I think a good amount of metalheads are like that.
Right.
Not obviously not all. There's all different,
Yeah.
kind of personalities, but in general, most metalheads, either are antisocial to some extent or just like, somehow an outcast. It's just part of being metal, I think.
Right. Yeah, it just happens to us metalheads. I mean, I'll go for example, real quick. For example, I'll go to a grocery store with a death metal shirt or whatever, with a skull and whatever, and
Yeah.
normal people just stare at you, you know. So, anyways.
Yeah, well, I know, like, I get really uncomfortable. I mean, I'll go to the store, and as long as no one's, talking to me, it's fine. But as soon as somebody starts to talk to me, or even just like the people, the cash register people and stuff like that, I just feel really uncomfortable when they start, like, people that don't know anything about anything that I'm into start talking to me about it because they see I'm a metalhead and they want to talk to me when, it, like, I used to get metal, like, I'd go out somewhere, we'll say to a store, and somebody at the cash register say, like, oh, you're into metal? It's like, yeah, I like metal too. I'm into Bon Jovi,
Yeah, very
and it's
different.
just like, yeah, okay, we're on the same page, but,
Yeah.
and I know, like, the extreme stuff I'm into, like, the chances of finding a normal person that likes that stuff is real low, so it's kind of like, I just would rather just crawl under a rock and just not worry about it, because I feel like a jerk, like, dealing with people that try to pretend that they know about metal when they don't, It's really uncomfortable for me.
Exactly. I completely understand that. So, is there anything you would do different or change if you had the chance to go back in time?
Well, I mean, it's one of those situations where I'm super happy at where I'm at now in life, so I wouldn't want to change anything because the outcome is, what it is. But, if I look back on my life, there's things I've done that I'm not proud of, or things that I've done that I wish I would have done differently. But a lot of it has to do with, immaturity or not really understanding, myself so much or whatnot. I mean, basically, you're asking me what my biggest flaws were, and I would say for most of my time in incantation, or just as a musician in general, I was very close-minded and didn't really. I couldn't understand why other death metal musicians that I played with didn't want things the same way I wanted things done, or whatnot. Like, I just couldn't understand. Like, I would feel like, we, as a band, we're getting such a great opportunity to do stuff. That everyone should just be as into it or as excited or whatnot as I am, and some people just aren't, or some people just don't want to do the band at a serious level like myself. And early on, especially, I would get really annoyed at it because I'd be like, how can they not want this? But people are different. I grew up only wanting to do music.
Yeah.
In my life, that was like my main goal. And like other people, they love playing music, but they also love doing other things too, and they want to have the stable life of a normal person, but at the same time still play music. And those things at that time I couldn't understand, because I'm just like, I looked at it like, I'm getting an opportunity to fulfill my dreams as a musician. Why aren't these other people just like chomping at the bit to do it? It's like to me, I would think that they're too passive on it, or they're not being, say, not working as hard as I am on it. When they're doing, a lot of times they're doing the best they can, or they're just doing things in a different way than I'm doing it. But I looked at it as, if you're not doing it my way, you're kind of doing it the wrong way, which it's not really. It's a really immature way to look at it. But at the same time, that way of looking at things pushing myself so hard on stuff is part of the reason why we've probably done so well. So it's like it's a double-edged sword,
Yeah. Well, you're doing great. Whatever you're doing great. So, what does John McEntee listen to nowadays? And do you listen to death metal only, or do you listen to other types of music?
No, I mean, I listen to other styles of music, but most of it is it's either death metal, like heavy metal, or hard rock. I mean, those are the kind of music. That's the kind of music that I really enjoy. It's kind of guitar-driven music. I mean, I like some newer stuff, newer death metal bands out there. And I'm really happy with some of the older bands that have been putting out albums lately. Like, I'm really looking forward to the new Asphyx album. I think it'll be a great one.
Yeah.
I like. I listened to the new Benediction album. I thought that was really good. I was really happy to.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoyed that one. Then there's newer bands out there that I think are good. I mean, what was it? Undergang, I think does some good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have all their stuff, but I've heard some of their albums, and I think I like their vibe. There's a band called was it Mortiferum? I always forget how to pronounce them properly.
Yeah.
Out of the I think it's out of Portland area, which is really good. And then I like a lot of I listen to a lot of old school heavy metal that I grew up on. I love Priest and Maiden and Sabbath and stuff like that. I still enjoy listening to some of those really early what we considered like glam metal albums that I at the time I considered it heavy metal.
Yeah.
More than glam, but a lot of them turn glam. Like like Shout at the Devil or something by Motley Crue is always a fun one to listen to, or Out of the Cellar by Rat. It's fun to revisit that stuff again after so long. Then a lot of like 70s stuff I like, like Deep Purple and Rainbow. Also what do we call it? Like I've been getting into recently a band Buffalo. I think they're from Australia. Old hard rock band. That's some really killer stuff. But yeah, I kind of it's all over the place. Just matters what kind of mood I'm in. But I love hearing. I love still listening to death metal, like especially the classics. I have a habit of wanting to listen to the early '90s death metal stuff, like a band like Dismember, or say early Morbid Angel or something. Those are the albums that in that style are some of my favorites. But there was great stuff too. I mean, another new one that's great is a Perdition Temple album. That was it. Gene from Angel Corpse's band. That's a really good one. And while talking about bands too, I might as well give a plug for Kyle's. He has a new Shed to Skin album coming out, and he has another like a kind of like a D-beat type band that's coming out too soon called what was it? Perdition Sect. It was called. It used to be called Hell Is Here, but another band had that, and I keep thinking Hell Is Here when I hear the band, when I think of the band. But what was it? And then our guitar player Luke has Dismemberment, which is a great kind of a mixture between old and newer school thrash stuff. Really killer.
Cool.
But yeah, I still love listening to metal and whatnot. I just sometimes when I hear too many bands that just rip off some of the older '90s death metal, it's not so interesting to me. I'm happy that they're playing in that style, but to listen to it for me is just not. Doesn't when you've heard the originals and you hear bands that are just blatantly ripping them off. For me, it just doesn't sound exciting. But I understand for them, it's they really like that band, that music, so they're doing it out of love for the music. But for me, it's just not as enjoyable since I was there. I had the same problem in the late '90s, early 2000s when bands all these power metal bands were coming out that were ripping off old Halloween, and I was just I didn't get it because I'm like, I used to jam out the Walls of Jericho all the time from Halloween, and I think that's a great album, but I don't need to hear like 20 other bands, maybe 100 other bands that totally rip them off. But that style ended up getting huge. I mean, a lot of those bands are still around doing amazing. So okay, whatever,
Yeah, there's a lot of rip-offs out there, huh? Yep, I noticed that too.
Yeah, so I guess it's ripped off in general. I mean, every band in general gets influenced by other people. It just matters. Yeah. Some bands, in my opinion, take it a little bit too far.
Here's a different question before we let you go. What's your best? What's your best gig and what's your worst gig?
It's hard to say. I mean, man, there's been so many amazing gigs, so it's hard to really say. I mean, fuck. Yeah, we've had a lot of really great ones. I mean, they're gigs are, a lot of gigs that we played have been great for all different reasons and stuff, But I guess, I mean, as far as for me, the greatest gig we play is always like the newest one that we're playing, because at this point, I'm always happy just to play. And, the last one, when we were able to do touring and stuff on this, for Profane Nexus album, it's just the vibe in the band and the live performances were just so enjoyable. It was just so good. I mean, everybody was just playing great. The songs were great. It seemed like the crowds are really, feeling the music. So, those are always super, super great experience. But we had other great gigs for other reasons, like just pure insanity, like Mexico City in '94. Just basically a non-stop pit of people just killing each other, while, for every single song we play. So that's always fun, Awesome. Or, we played in the Canary Islands show, and the people there were so excited that there's basically like a line of people waiting outside the stage to stage dive, because there was not enough room for everyone to stage dive at once. So that was kind of a fun show. As far as worst show goes, there were unfortunately probably more, lame shows. One bad show that really, I guess, bothers me a lot is the live video we did for on Primordial Domination. That Listenable had a recording crew at the show, and before the show, I fucking lost my voice. I knew it early that day. I was trying to keep quiet, and then they recorded the show and they released the video of the show, and I was like struggling to do vocals, and it was just such a bummer, because that was like really the first official live video of me doing vocals for the band, and I wasn't, at even close to full strength. So, that's definitely high on the list of sucky shows. I mean, another really sucky show was it was for the Blasphemy tour. We were touring with Immolation and Goat Whore in the U.S., and the second show we played after our set, there was a fight that broke out between our old vocalist Mike Sayez's friend and some other guy at the show. And after our show was over, Mikey seen it, and he ran out to the crowd and tried to break up the fight, and he ended up getting stabbed in the arm. He didn't realize the one guy was actually stabbing his friend.
Oh, wow.
So he ended up getting his bicep basically severed.
Wow.
And obviously, we had to cancel the rest of the tour, which was sad, but I mean, his health was way more important. And he basically got, he had to get reconstructive surgery. The night was a total mess. The same day, we also had all their merchandise stolen out of our van in front of the club. It was just a really, really bad gig. So I would say that it was, the second show was in Queens, New York, at a club called the Pyramid Club. And I know the club's not around there anymore, but I'm definitely not excited to play around there again. It just was a total mess,
Well, Awesome, horrible stories there.
Yeah. When you play so many shows, there's going to be some that suck,
I can
for
imagine.
some reasons.
What's next for John and Incantation? What can fans expect next?
Okay, well, right now we've just been super inspired and busy working on new material as a band. Basically, right after the recording, we finished the recording of Sect of Vile Divinities. We went already into writing mode, and we're basically just gonna record as much stuff as we can right now, and then kind of decide what to do as far as release wise. So you just don't know how things are going with this COVID stuff going on. So but we're just still keeping creative that way. Besides that, I've just been just trying. I mean, really just enjoying the fact of having time at home, which is nice in a way. It's great to tour and stuff, but it's also nice. This is the longest time I've been at home for quite a while, so it's good to kind of get some stuff done at home. Let me think. I mean, there's just been really busy with material. We've been jamming with the band. We're able to get together and stuff like that now, so that's been kind of cool. So just normal stuff, just getting some metal ready, and we're just trying to make a game plan, hopefully for 2021, because we want to get out on tour, or at least play some shows for the Sect of Vile Divinity albums, because it has been doing amazing, and people really want to see us live and play some of those songs live. So I'm hoping that we can do something. We do have a couple of offers for next year, so depending on how things go, hopefully we'll be able to start doing some gigs in next year sometime. Probably closer to summer, I would assume.
Well, we can't wait. Would you like to send a message to the Incantation fans, to all your fans, death metal fans out there listening to this podcast?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, thank you so much for the support over the years. I mean, we have so many fans have stuck with us from day one, plus we have so many new fans over the last few years get into the band. So, we're just super excited to still be able to play music that's relevant, and the reaction that everyone's been giving us for the Sect of Vile Divinity album has just been amazing, top notch. I mean, honestly, this album has done better than any of our other albums have in the past, as far as just the mixture between the fans' reaction and the press reaction, which is just really awesome. So just want to thank everybody, and we just look forward to playing, out live for all you guys again, and check us out on social media. We have all the normal stuff, Facebook fan page and stuff, and just check it out. Keep metal alive, and just don't be a poser. Don't let this COVID stuff get you down. We're all gonna get through this, and we're gonna just be able to get back to our normal metal lifestyles hopefully as soon as possible.
Awesome, John. Thank you. We thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you for keeping death metal alive and bringing the goods. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Go out and support Incantation, some of the pioneers of death metal, one of the first bands out there in the New York, New Jersey area to come up with this style. Of course, after Morbid Angel and after Obituary, D-Side, some of these people, Incantation was right there in line, man. So one of the first people, Mr. John McEntee, was one of the first people that invented this kind of stuff, man. So Incantation, the first demos, 89, 90. So go ahead and check out, download, stream Sect of Vile Divinities on Relapse Records. Relapse or Relapse? One of those two names. Well, you get the idea. Go out there, support these bands, have support Incantation, go to their website, social media, buy their merchandise, and let's await until this COVID shit finishes so we can see these bands live, man. Ain't that a fact? So anyways, one more time, thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thank you for following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Reddit, Tumblr, and amongst others I might be missing. And of course, you can find us on Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, amongst a bunch of other places where you can find our podcast, That Metal Interview Podcast. On behalf of myself, James, we thank you guys, our public, our metalhead rock public. Thank you for supporting our podcast. We really appreciate it. And of course, thank you to Mr. John McEntee, the inventor of Incantation. We thank him for spending some time with us on this podcast. So thank you guys, and don't forget to keep it metal.
That Metal Interview.